Okay, well, good morning, everyone. Welcome, and my name is Nancy Pewter. I'm your host today. I'm the founder of Seacoast Seniors and also a real estate broker associate at Keller Williams Slow Happy Homes. Today our topic is solo aging, how to cope and help others, and who can I trust? So how many of you know that there's good guys and there's bad guys out there? Okay. I want you to know that we are the good guys. And anyone that we refer you to, all of these people sitting at the front, all of our sponsors, and anyone on our resource team has been vetted, and you can depend on them. So first, as many of you know, Seacoast Seniors is all about empowering, equipping, and educating. And our seminars are called Empowerment Series because you'll get more out of them if you attend regularly. There's a lot of overlap. We not only get people talking about the things that people don't like to talk about, but our powerful resource team will help guide you before the crisis happens. And if a crisis happens, give us a call. We can help connect you with the appropriate people. In case you're wondering why a realtor would want to do seminars to older adults on how to age gracefully, my background as a realtor for the past 42 years brought me into so many homes every year where a crisis had occurred already. And when they called me to list the house for sale, I walked into complete and total chaos. The kids had converged for the weekend from wherever they were coming from, and they had decided they were going to plan the rest of mom's life out by Monday if they didn't kill each other first. And then they had to go back to work, and to their homes on Monday. And they left me with the older adult who was sometimes incapacitated, and I had to arrange showings, etc., and which I did to the best of my ability. But all the while, I was wondering, where the heck are the people to help these people? And so we somehow managed to get through it. I did the best I could to comfort and keep the kids involved. But I never really had an answer as to what to do about it until a few years ago. And I woke up one morning sleeping and muttering again about where are the people to help these people. And all of a sudden a thought came into my mind. Wow, maybe you should do it. And I thought, well, what am I going to do? The only thing I know how to do is sell real estate. I've been doing it since I was 28 years old. And, but the voice wouldn't go away. Some of you know whose voice that was. And I went and did some research. I got certified out of an institute in Oklahoma. It was a very hands-on course on how to work with older adults and do it successfully. And then I came back and I started doing seminars. Because the one thing I ran into again and again when I worked with my older clients was that when I walked into these crisis situations, it was apparent that nobody had made any plans in case something like this had happened, which is kind of crazy because we all know as we get older, the body starts to betray us in little ways. When we fall, it can be a little bit more traumatic than when we were younger, when we just bounced right back up. And I was just amazed at how little prepared people were for a potential crisis. So it was like they had their heads in the sand, right? So turn to your neighbor on the right, if you have a neighbor on the right, and say, you've had your head in the sand.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, now turn to your other neighbor and say, but not after today. Okay, so first of all, the bathrooms. The bathrooms are right outside the door, to the right on the other side of the stairs. We don't take any breaks, so if you need to get up and down, it's absolutely fine. We have coffee and tea and water in the back of the room. And on your table, you have a few flyers, one of which is a feedback form. And when you came in, or if you've been to a seminar before, you might know about our learning cards. Does anyone here not have a learning card? Okay. When you fill out your feedback form, which we greatly appreciate, that helps us, of course, make the seminars go better each time. But you will also get your hole punched on your learning card. You'll get a hole punch, which Michelle will do for you on the way out. And so, but you don't get your hole punched unless you turn in the feedback form. After you have 10 punches, you get a Panera gift card. Woohoo! Okay. And before we get going, I would like to acknowledge our sponsors. Our sponsors, through their financial generosity, make it possible for us to continue to offer these seminars on a regular basis at no charge to you. And today, we have a wonderful panel of experts here that have graciously donated their time and expertise to help you find ways to age gracefully. And today the topic is if you're alone, but anyone would benefit from what they have to say today. So, let's get going. I'm going to have the panelists introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about what they do, and then we'll start our interview. Okay, Ron.
Good morning. Hold that, Ron.
Hi there. I'm Ron Torres, and I'm co-owner with my wife Maria of Seniors Helping Seniors. We're an in-home care agency. We hire seniors to provide the care. And like Nancy, I woke up one day and realized I was a senior. Anyway, I'm going to do something different now.
Thank you, Ron. Bonnie.
Good morning. My name is Bonnie Arvidson, and I am the manager at the Central Coast Senior Center in Oceano. And what we do is we provide a really fun atmosphere for our seniors. We're not a daycare center. We are only open, not just only, we're open from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Monday through Friday. So if you're into line dancing, if you're into bingo, if you're into bunco, we've got a great bunco team. Just whatever the need is, but it gives you some place to go to meet with other seniors. And that's the whole concept of the center.
Great, thank you. Doug?
Good morning, I'm Doug Buchanan, and I apologize for the ums. I haven't really done a lot of public speaking since COVID, so I'm trying to get back in the swing of things. I'm an estate planning attorney. I've been on the Central Coast for a little over 25 years. My office is in Arroyo Grande. I work with my wife Deirdre, and I do estate planning, which would include wills and trusts, and also administration, probate and trust administration. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug.
Hi there, my name is Sally Krueger, and I'm here representing a nonprofit called Slow Village. This is no relationship to the Village's retirement home. People get mixed up about that. And this Village movement, if you've ever heard of it, is basically an effort to keep you in your own home if that's where you want to be. And so they'll tell you more about that.
Great, thank you, Sally. Okay, let's get going. Ron, would you please share with us why it's important to have a relationship with an in-home care agency before a crisis happens?
Be happy to. Thank you.
Thank you.
Got my notes. I made that little remark that I woke up and found out I was a senior, and it was kind of a joke, but kind of true, because it happens fast, right? And then all of a sudden you're here. And for me, I was a HR director in corporate setting, and I decided that that was not for me any longer. I'd done that for 20 years and then do something else. And I got into the business of providing in-home care to seniors. It's non-medical care, and we hire seniors to do it. And the thing that has struck me in running this business is that typically when people contact us to ask for care or to inquire about our services, the need was yesterday or a month ago or 2 months ago. And they're in a crisis type situation. It's difficult to make the best decision when you're in a crisis situation because you feel like you have to move on something right away because you're desperate. What I'm going to suggest as far as why you should prepare for that is so that when that time comes, and we all know that it's going to come either for us or for our loved one perhaps, it would be good to just make a smooth transition. That would be helpful, and it would be hopefully to a service that is compatible with you and with your needs. Somebody mentioned siblings. That's another thing that I run into is siblings disagree about what they're going to do with mom or dad. And so if you can do that, try to handle that in a non-crisis situation, perhaps that will have a better outcome. I say perhaps because sometimes it doesn't. What I'm suggesting is that you actually do your due diligence, your investigation into what agency might work best for you while you're healthy and while your loved one is still healthy, so that you're not in a crisis situation. I'm licensed through the Department of Social Services, Home Care Services Bureau, which is in-home non-medical care. There are 16 agencies in San Luis Obispo County that provide that have the same license that I do, and that provide the same kind of service. You've got choices. There are a lot of choices. The question is, how do you narrow down to what's best for you? Now, each agency has its own personality, very much reflecting the owner or the entity that owns the agency. And that's one thing that I highly recommend that you check into, because once you start services, you're going to be interacting with this organization. Or if you end up being unhappy with them, you can always switch, but then that's another transition, another investigation, and so forth. So I'm just going to give you a few different examples of types of agencies that are out there, some that may meet your needs, some that, and everybody's different, so everybody has different needs. You have some agencies out there with the same license that are corporately owned. They've got a corporate office somewhere back east or in the Midwest, Southern California, wherever it is, and this is a branch office, and it's a corporate location. Those, perhaps some advantages there is perhaps they would have a greater availability of caregivers. They have more resources behind them. They might have also other services that are ancillary services that they may also provide that may help you. For instance, they may have another subsidiary that provides medical care, things like that. there's a greater variety of resources that might be available to you in a corporate office. On the other side of it, they're going to be more structured, they're going to be more bureaucratic, maybe a little less flexible in the care that's provided. And I'll mention this later also, but probably will have a somewhat different character of caregivers as opposed to some of the other agencies. But there's a lot of good advantages to going with a big corporate type of agency. Another kind that you could run into is a franchise operation. Mine is a franchise, and it's kind of a blend between corporate and mom and pop type operation, because my wife and I own the company and we run it the way we want to, within guidelines of the franchise. And the franchise provides very, very high level professional support to the mom and pop owner of the franchise. So you get the combination of the benefits of maybe the corporate environment and a locally owned. And one of the things that's going to be very evident for this and the next category I'm going to talk about is that the nature of the organization is going to be an outgrowth of the owner. So you'll notice that if you were to interview the different agencies, they're going to have different flavors, different ways that they interact with you. Another type of organization would be somebody who's, I would say, independent in a sense. I mean, I'm independent, but I do own the franchise, but those that are running an agency on their own without a franchise, without corporate support, kind of a mom and pop type thing. Generally, these type of firms will be smaller. They'll generally have, between 5, 10, 15 caregivers, as opposed to some of the larger ones might have 40, 50, 100, 200 caregivers. You're going to get very personalized care with these people, and they're going to be very responsive to your needs. But there are some, disadvantages. Each one, none of them is right or wrong. It just all depends on what your need is and what's going to best meet your needs. All of the agencies in the state, but in San Luis Obispo County, are listed on their website. And I did, on the back table, I've got this handout if you're interested in looking at it. But it lists all the agencies. It lists the name of the agency, the administrator, their phone number, their email address, their street address, and when they were licensed. The earliest ones you'll see is 2016, because that's when California started licensing agencies. And that's why you'll not see anything before 2016. But when I started this business, my business, I actually went down this list and I did secret shopper. I pretended like, well, actually I do have a need. My mother-in-law is living with us and she does have a caregiver. So the scenario I was presenting was real life because it was my situation. But I didn't identify that I was going to be a competitor. But I did secret shopping. And I recommend you do the same thing, to just call each agency and inquire. And then when you find 2 or 3 that you felt good about, make an appointment to talk to the owner or the person in charge. And the reason I say the owner is because that's going to inform you as to what the nature of the organization is like. How does the owner treat you? How is the interaction? How comfortable do you feel working? If you ended up with an invoicing problem, are you going to feel comfortable talking to this person and asking about it? Something like that. Another thing you're going to want to find out that's going to, whether or not it meets your needs, is how they invoice. Sometimes some will invoice weekly, some will invoice monthly. Some will have a minimum number of hours that that you have to enroll in. Some will have higher minimums, some will have lower minimums. Each one is going to be different. And there's also minimum number of hours, not only per week or per month, but per shift. You just need to ask those questions. Maybe you only need 1 or 2 or 3 hours at a time, there's a lot of agencies that won't match up with that because they're gonna require more hours. That's one factor. Another thing is, you wanna identify what their niche is. You know, with 16 competitors, there's gotta be some way, speaking for myself, that I want to stand out from the others. I mean, we all have the same license, we all provide the same kinds of services. Find out what their niche is. Like in my example, my niche is that I focus on the relationship aspect between the caregiver and the care receiver. Because our caregivers are seniors, they're able to relate much better with the care receiver. But on the other hand, I don't want them to get hurt. So if you have a need for transferring, maybe the person that your loved one or you need help getting out of the bed into the shower and you need transfer help, I generally would refer those to another agency because I don't want my caregivers to get hurt. So some will be focused on the type of caregiver like that, or some may have technology that may be helpful. There's a lot of technology out there now. Some of it's kind of creepy, where it's like a virtual caregiver. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but some of it is just voice activated, and some agencies will provide that kind of technology that may be a benefit to you in that. Some agencies also have other licenses that are medical. There's one in town where every single caregiver is a licensed medical professional. That might be a helpful thing for you. It might not be. With that particular agency, their hourly rate is going to be higher. But if that's a service that you need, that's something that you want to look into. So each agency is going to should create its own niche. Check out their website, check out their online reviews, confirm that they will assist with long-term care claims, because the agency has to provide backup to the insurance company to get reimbursed. Make sure that they'll help you with that. And another good thing is to find out if you or your loved one is a veteran, are they a veteran provider? How much time do I have?
About another minute.
Okay, so find out if they're a veteran provider. Now with the veterans, there's 3 buckets of benefits. There is life insurance, there's cash benefits like a pension, and then there's also medical. And if the veteran is available for the Veteran Health Agency, then if the agency itself is a veteran credential provider, you may be able to get the care paid completely by the VA. So that's another good thing to check out. Not all agencies provide all the services that are they're licensed to do. Here's right from the law: bathing, dressing, feeding, exercising, personal hygiene and grooming, incontinence care, assisting with medication that the client self-administers, housekeeping, meal planning, preparation, laundry, transportation, correspondence, making telephone calls, shopping for personal care items or groceries, and companionship. Those are all the things listed in the law, but not every agency will do every one of those things. So I left that list of agencies in the back. If you're interested in picking that up, then you're welcome to do so. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ron. And he's so humble that he provided that list of 16 agencies, and he didn't even highlight his own. You know, I always emphasize to the panelists that, you know, this is educational only, and we promise our attendees that there won't be a sales pitch. But Ron, you really went above and beyond, so thank you. Okay, Bonnie from Central Coast Senior Center, would you please share with us how older adults can benefit from a membership at a local senior center?
Absolutely, I can. Good morning, everybody. So nice to see your faces here. How can you benefit? Wow. I had never been to a senior center before until I went to this one in Oceano. I went there looking for a volunteer job just to get me out of the house because I'm a lousy retiree. Walked in looking for a volunteer position, walked out with a job. Hadn't anticipated that. Furthermore, I am the youngest person on the staff. Can you believe that? I never thought I'd be able to say that again in my life. But these folks have enriched my life tenfold. I can't even begin to tell you. Yes, it's a job, but what we are offering there is fellowship. I believe that from the bottom of my heart because I see it every day. When those little ladies get out there and start line dancing, oh dear Jesus, you've never seen anything cuter in your life. I am serious, and the joy on their faces. We have beginning, intermediate, and advanced, so, you know, these ladies, and gentlemen, but mostly the ladies, they walk in and they see these people of their own age and from their own area out there line dancing, and I mean, I'll be honest, it's not beautiful, okay? I've seen some beautiful line dancing. This is not that, but what it is fun. It is getting out there. It's putting yourself out there with other people. And the idea of the concept of the village, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, I believe that my center is its own little village, and it's giving and giving and giving to its members. When one of our ladies had an accident and she fell at the center, thank the Lord I wasn't even there, so I didn't have to worry about it too much until the following Monday, but this was a Friday afternoon and she fell. And when I talked with her on Monday, she had spoken to 12 of our members already. People that had heard that she fell and just wanted to make sure she was okay. She had 2 of our members stop by and bring her food. That's what being a part of something like a senior center does. Now, obviously I can't speak for other centers, but I can tell you that I see it every single day. A lot of times we have caregivers come in and want to talk to us about our activities and what does it take to be a member. I mean, it's $25 a year, you know, and for the kind of day-to-day interaction that these seniors are getting, we're hearing nothing but positive from the caregivers. Oh, they just love it. And the seniors, they all want to talk about it all afternoon when they go home, of what happened, who they saw, what they did. You know, we have seniors that come in and do their taxes because we have long tables in our main room, and it's free to the membership. You can come in at any time. I can't tell you how many people dressed the Christmas cards last year at the center because they could come in and they could see their friends and they could laugh and they could talk and they could get something done. And I just sit back in my little hole in the wall office and I listen and I hear the interaction. On bingo day, it's like a barnyard out there. I'll tell you what, seriously, we've got the little squeezy toys. Oh, they bring them in by the bags. We've got the ducks and the chickens and the geese and the cows and the sheep and the, oh, Lord. And I sit in my office and it, like I said, it's like a barnyard out there. Call me 11 and the place explodes, let me tell you. But they have fun. And when you're 70 and 80, 90 years old, you want to have fun. Because a lot of our seniors have forgotten what fun is. And so we make sure that they have a lot of that at our center. And I think And I choose to believe in my heart that all of the centers feel the same way. What we want to do is to give them a respite, give their caregivers a few hours off if necessary. Everything is ADA approved at the center, and we just love them. We just love them, and that's probably the biggest gift that we can give. And I can tell you from personal experience, it is the best gift that I've received. So thank you for listening. I hope that was enough information. We're open from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Monday through Friday. The center is located just down the street from the Rock and Roll Diner. And it's just awesome. And we would love to see you, to be there to answer your questions. Just come into the center and say hi. And check out what we've got there and see if it might be applicable to your needs and your seniors' needs. And thank you for listening. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Bonnie. Yeah, and one of the things that Bonnie didn't mention is that Meals That Connect serves lunches at the not only her senior center, but also other ones. There's one in Nipomo, there's one in San Luis Obispo, and I did leave a list of where they serve lunch during the week at the back of the room in case you're interested. They simply ask that you call ahead so they know how many meals to provide. I have clients who go down to the senior center every day of the week for lunch. That's what they do. They don't have to fix a meal, and they get to interact with friends, make new friends. And so the senior centers are really something that you should check out, no matter how old you are. And if you feel too young, like Bonnie did, she went down there simply to check it out and maybe volunteer. Do that. You know, just go down there and hang out for a little while. I think you'll be surprised.
We will not turn you away if you want to volunteer, I promise.
Okay. So Doug, we are going to talk to you, or you're going to talk to us in a moment. I'm going to help you with those. Are you all set, or do you need some more help passing those out, Doug? He's not paying any attention to me, but I'm used to it. Okay. They just prop me up here and listen to me. Okay.
Okay,
So Doug, would you share with us the importance of having a power of attorney in place as part of your aging plan, and also how powers of attorney differ from each other?
thank you. Thank you for having me here today, Nancy. As I said, I am out of practice, with dealing with the general public. But a power of attorney is a very important document to have as part of your estate plan, okay? So if you just have a will or a trust, you've covered how your property is going to be taken care of. But if you're incapacitated, your will or your trust isn't much use, okay? You need to have a power of attorney. So there's two different powers of attorney that I wanted to talk about. And the first one I was going to talk about is what we call a durable power of attorney for asset management or finances, okay? So that's this one, all right? And in that form, what you're doing as the principal, you're appointing an agent. So it's someone who works for you, someone you trust, you appoint to perform certain tasks, okay? In a durable power of attorney for asset management, those tasks are largely financial, and they're listed out on the form, okay? So A is real property, B is tangible personal property, and we just go down the list, okay? And we come all the way to N, which is all of the above listed matters, okay? So if you're wanting to appoint someone to handle your finances, then you would, on this form, you would just initial in the box next to N, okay? And that would cover all of them. You don't have to check all the boxes. Now, if you wanted to limit the scope of the power of attorney to just say real estate, okay? If it was the sale of a house and that's all you wanted to cede over those powers, then you would just check real estate or initial next to real estate, okay? So it would be limited, okay? So the scope, and that's called scope. So a power of attorney can be limited in scope, can also be limited in time. You could say this power of attorney will expire in 30 days, okay? So, but normally when we're, as part of an estate plan, what we're talking about is having a document in place that you execute now while you have capacity, and that if you lapse into incapacity, and that could be through time, okay, it could be part of the aging process, or it could be a sudden event, okay, where you're suddenly incapacitated and you can't make phone calls, you can't sign checks, you can't sign your name. You have a document in place because it's too late after the fact. If I get a call from a family and says my mom needs a power of attorney and she's unconscious, I say, well, that's a problem, okay? Because I can't help them, okay? The document needs to be signed before that happens, okay? The other problem is, I know my mom has a power of attorney, but we can't find it. Well, that's another problem, okay? So, the agent really needs to have a copy of this power of attorney. So whoever you give this, whoever you want to be your agent, they need to have a copy of this as well. You should have, the original, but they should have a copy, and they should know where your original documents are, okay? So that's durable power of attorney. What does durability mean? Durability means you've executed the document while you have capacity and it remains effective after a subsequent incapacity. So that's what durability means, okay? That's pretty much, what I wanted to talk about for durable power of attorney, okay? It is an important document because we don't like to think about being incapacitated, but if we are, we want to have the document in place if that occurs, okay? And really anyone over 18 can sign, and probably should have a power of attorney in place, okay? And that's, I'm going to segue right into medical power of attorney, and that's a subject that comes up. As some of my clients have children going off to college, and they say, Doug, should my son or daughter have a medical power of attorney? And I say, absolutely yes, okay? Because if they're in college and they're hospitalized and you want to talk to the doctors, well, under HIPAA, they can't talk to you unless the son or daughter's signed a medical power of attorney or a HIPAA release, okay? So, and that's true for all of us. A medical power of attorney, it's a separate document now, and this is the document that says Advanced Healthcare Directive on the top, okay? So it's and why do we do that? Okay, in California, the California Medical Association and the Bar Association agreed that it would be beneficial to have a universal form that was simple to read and interpret, and that all the hospitals would be able to look at the same form and not have to show the form, to their hospital attorney to interpret it, okay? Because we lawyers like to, make things complicated, guilty. So, that's why we have a universal form, okay? And it's pretty good. We've been using this form for about 20 years. It hasn't changed. In part one of the form, we name, or you name, your healthcare agent, okay? Again, you're the person, the principal, and you're naming the agent, the person that would make healthcare decisions on your behalf if you were incapacitated, okay? So that's what the agent would do. If you name an agent, are you giving up healthcare decision power? No, you're not, okay? Under California law, as long as you can say, yes, I want that, no, I don't want that, you're in charge, okay? So you can't be overridden by your agent. If you're incapacitated, though, you've got someone in place to make those decisions. Also, an agent can be an advocate, okay? Our medical community is trained to keep this going, okay? And an agent may be one who could intervene and say, no, we don't need that invasive test. No, that would be painful. No, that's not what mom wants, okay? Those are things an agent can do, whereas the person may not be completely incapacitated, but they might be overwhelmed. They may be feeling crummy, okay? So you've got an agent in place to help, protect you and make those decisions, okay? Okay, now when does the healthcare power of attorney become effective? On page 3 of this form, we always recommend that you initial the box to make the healthcare power of attorney effective immediately, okay? Otherwise, I've seen this happen, if you have a borderline case of somebody who may be incapacitated and may not, and they didn't check the box, and the children want to get involved, the hospital may say, well, we need to have a medical ethics review inquiry, okay? So meanwhile, dad or mom is, waiting for this board, and so is the family. So to avoid that outcome, I always tell my clients, make it effective immediately, okay? Now, if my client presents compelling reasons why they don't want to make it effective, I'll listen, okay? I had a client, and he was a doctor, and he said, my children want to take over, and I don't want them to unless I'm ready for that. So he named 2 doctors who were friends of his to make that decision, okay? Now that's a pretty high level of paranoia. I don't think most of us are there, but he was, and that worked for him, and it all worked out, okay? So, but I'm going to say 99.9% of cases, you do want to initial the box to make it effective immediately, okay? So a healthcare agent can make all healthcare decisions, including end-of-life decisions, and that we're going to get to on page 4, all right? So end-of-life decisions, this part, before this form was developed, we used to call this the living will, okay? So you may have heard that term, a living will. And a living will is not a will, okay? It has nothing to do with your property, okay? A living will is your wishes and your declaration as to whether or not you want life-sustaining treatment if you're in an end-of-life condition, okay? So that's what part 2 is talking about. And so the conditions, and on this form, we don't have an A or a B. On my form, we do have a box A or a B. So box A would be choice to prolong life, and box B would be choice not to, or choice A is choice not to prolong life. Choice B is choice to prolong life. Okay, what does that mean? Okay, choice not to prolong life means that I don't want artificial life support. That could be intubation, feeding tube, anything to keep me going, okay? If I'm in an incurable and irreversible condition that will result in death within a relatively short time, and that would be, a vegetative state. That's what we're talking about here, okay? There's still maybe brain activity, but it's a vegetative state, and the diagnoses have been made.
no coming back from this, okay? And so that diagnosis would be given to the agent, okay? I become unconscious, and to a reasonable degree of medical certainty, I will not regain consciousness. Okay, or 3, the likely risks and burdens of treatment would outweigh the expected benefits. Well, that's more of a medical legal test when we say likely and reasonable. Okay, we're getting into a medical legal kind of morass. All right, but my clients say, well, what does that mean, Doug? I said, well, it means that all the tests and all the information are going to be presented to the family, and then they're going to be able to make the decision on whether or not to remove artificial life support. Okay? If you don't like choice 3, what we've done is I just have my clients line it out. Okay, we just line it out, initial out on the margin, and it's out. Okay, so that's choice not to prolong life. Choice to prolong life means keep me going as long as there's life. Okay, well, what does that mean? It means that in California, if you have brain activity, you're alive. Okay, brain waves. All right. If there's no brain waves, you're not alive. Okay. I have seen on the news and read about cases where hospitals have refused to provide coverage, and families have had to move family members out of state. Okay, so that's a whole other area that we won't get into today. Okay, but that's what choice to prolong life is. So my clients a lot of times will say, Doug, which one should I choose? Which one is right? Well, there's no right answer. It's what's right for you. Okay, but if you want to be on the side of statistics, almost 90%, 86% choose to make the choice not to prolong life. Okay, so and one quick thing I want to point out is that if you don't want to be resuscitated under any circumstances, DNR, that's a separate order. That's not what we're talking about here. Okay, so a DNR is part of what's called a POLST order, P-O-L-S-T, and this is a physician's order for life-sustaining treatment. Okay, I can't advise my clients on that because California law says only a physician can advise a patient on whether or not to sign a DNR or a POLST order. Okay, so if my client wants a DNR, that's something they have to discuss with their doctor. Okay, and then they can sign that order, and that's the pink form. Okay, the pink form. All right, and people that have that are told to keep them on their refrigerator, so the paramedics know, because they know where to look. They're trained to do that, and they'll look there first. Okay. All right. Other wishes. All right. So this is a nice little option on part 3 on the next page. If you want to be an organ donor, you can indicate your wish to give organs. You can limit the donation to certain organs or certain purposes or uses, or you can just not do it. Okay, if you want to keep your parts, you can keep your parts. Okay, again, my clients say, well, which is right, Doug? That's very personal. Okay, it's just how you feel. Okay, so I can talk to my clients about it, but I certainly can't tell them which is right. Okay, on part 4 on the next page, primary physician. If you have a primary physician, you can list this, and you don't have to. All right, it's hard to keep doctors these days, as we all know. If your doctor changes and you've had one listed, you don't have to redo this form, okay? But just give this form to your new doctor, because this is just informational, okay? It is a good idea to have a digital copy of this phone and send the digital copy to your agent, because in an emergency or a crisis, people may not remember to grab this, when they go to the hospital. But if they can access it through their phone, the digital copy, or through their email, it can solve a lot of problems. Okay?
okay?
And when you say agent, sorry to interrupt, but when you say agent, you mean whoever the person is that you've delegated
Right,
to have the power of attorney?
right, healthcare agent, Nancy, that's right.
Or friend or family member?
Right, so your agent is whoever you choose, whoever you trust to make medical decisions. Sometimes my clients ask, well, that should always be the family. And I say, well, maybe not, okay? Maybe the family members can't, let you go, and maybe that's your wish, okay? So that may not be an ideal choice, okay? Yeah.
Is it possible to have a verbal power of attorney and medical power of attorney the same person, or is it best to separate?
No, that's fine. Yeah, and you can have it across the board. Sometimes, in families, you may have one child that's the financial whiz, okay, and very responsible, and the other child that's maybe a nurse, okay, or a doctor. So then we would have different agents, okay, but we can have one person across the board. You definitely want to talk to the person or the family member that you're naming as your agent beforehand to make sure not only that they agree, but also that you have a conversation so that they know what your wishes are, okay? You need to have at least, a short conversation as to what you want, okay, and don't want.
Yeah, I had a situation like that.
I'm sorry, Lynn, can we just wait until, we're gonna have a Q&A at the end, I should have mentioned it earlier, and then I'll give you the microphone so everyone can hear your question too, okay?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
All right, that's all right. It's my fault, I should have
Okay.
mentioned it earlier.
Well, I just turned it into a client consult, that's what I'm better at, so. Okay, now this form can be witnessed by two witnesses, they should be impartial, certainly don't want the agent who you're naming to witness this, it should be someone else to witness, or you can have it notarized, okay? And if you're in a nursing home, there is a special requirement for that. That's spelled out there, okay? So thanks for listening, and we'll take questions after.
Yeah,
this.
and one of the things I wanted to add too, first of all, I thought it was really interesting that Doug recommends that we have a power of attorney if we're 18 years old or older. Nowadays, everything is just so hard. The red tape is just so awful. You hear things, these terrible things happening to people, and yet they're so further complicated and made so much more painful because of all the paperwork and the red tape that people have to go through. So that's really good information. But this topic being about solo aging, how much more important is it to you if you're aging alone that you have all of these things in place? When it's just the two of you, somehow you always seem to land on your feet, right? But when you're by yourself, it's so important that you to take the steps necessary. Before the end of the seminar, I have a handout for you on aging alone that I'd like you all to take with you. But Doug is amazing. I've worked with Doug before. He's just, you are Doug. He's very knowledgeable, he's very compassionate, so he's a great attorney to work with. And so thank you. Sally, I can barely see you over there on the other side of Doug. Hi. Could you speak into the microphone and share with us what Slow Village is and how older adults can benefit from a membership? And, just include the benefits from your perspective.
I'm very happy to do that because I've been involved in Slow Village for its entire history and indeed helped found it. How many of you have ever heard of Slow Village before you came here? You see, somehow we are the best kept secret in this county. And I've been trying to stamp that out for the last 6 years. So here I am, and at the back there's brochures, my business card for Slow Village, all also a list to sign in if you want a personal phone call to get more information. Okay, so Slow Village, a bit of history. The village movement was founded in Boston in about 2002. There's now over 350 villages in the US and over 50 in California. And it was founded because some older people in Boston found they couldn't shovel snow anymore, and they couldn't stand on ladders to change the battery in their smoke alarms that kept beeping at them. But they wanted to stay in their own home, but they needed a little bit of help. They weren't quite ready for Ron's services, which are of course needed at some point sometimes, but just a little bit of help. Particularly for those, and we have probably 80% of our membership is solo women that need a little help. And some of the barriers to staying in your own home are physical, like standing on the ladder, little bits of home repair. Some of them sometimes are more mental and social. You've lived in your home absolutely forever, but the neighborhood has changed around you. Your old friends are gone. They've died or moved away or gone to a care facility. And so you're feeling pretty isolated. Maybe you don't drive anymore. So Slow Village takes a two-pronged approach. We do services for you that you need, but we also try to make sure that you aren't isolated. We have a bunch of social events that I'll tell you about that are really fun, complementing the senior centers that Bonnie talks about. So, as I said in my brief introduction, we are not at all related to the villages, and we are what you would call a virtual village, meaning you are in your own home, and our office is a corner of a church. And the people actually don't work in the office, but there is a phone where you get a hold of us. So, what happens when you join our village? You can ask for services. So what you do is to make a phone call. What can you ask for? Well, I already said, most people our age don't want to stand on the ladder anymore, although my husband still has me standing on the ladder. And we do transportation. Some of our some of our members have lost their driver's license due to macular degeneration. We have 2 or 3 year old, 90-year-old women that their kids have said, I don't care, Mom, you still have a license, but you can't drive, because if you're in an accident, you're 90 years old, and it's gonna be your fault even if it wasn't. So the kids have pulled the license. So when we give you transportation that you've requested, we take you, for instance, to the doctor, door to door, we wait for you, and we bring you home. Now there's lots of good public transportation and ride-on, but there's really nobody that waits for you. And many of our volunteers that provide this transportation will go into the doctor's office with you if you want a second pair of ears to help you listen. We'll provide you with technical help. You've got the new computer, the new iPhone, or even the old iPhone and the little computer, and it just won't do what you want it to do. Well, we've got experts that can come help you with that. We'll do little bits of gardening for you. You've got a tree that just dropping its leaves and you want your backyard raked. We'll walk your dog. And we'll do some minor household repairs. We have a lady whose portable long stem vacuum wasn't working, and one of our guys fixed that for us. And frequently, you have something wrong with your toilet, and you say, do I really need to call a plumber? Is it that big a job? Or is it something really minor that a handyman can fix? Well, you can phone our village, and our volunteers can go out there, maybe fix it for you, and maybe say, nope, this is a big job, you need to call the plumber. That kind of help is essential when you're alone. So we say that you can ask for anything. We've had some very interesting requests. We don't always guarantee that we can fulfill those interesting requests, but some of them we have. And we fill over 95% of our requests. So the other part of Slow Village, making sure you don't get isolated, is we have a couple of coffee hours a month. They're currently held on the first and third Wednesday. There's one going on right now. Nancy and I have to get together and not have conflicts like this. And we provide, right now they're being held at a church because some of the coffee shops are kind of noisy and some of our members have problems hearing. So we provide the coffee, decaf, and tea, and we take turns bringing the goodie because one has to munch on something while they're listening to people chat. We usually will pull out a topic. It may be something simple like, what was your favorite vacation? And we'll go around the room and share that. Occasionally we have a speaker. A couple of weeks ago, we had a very interesting speaker that talked about AI, artificial intelligence, the good, the bad, and the ugly of it. And he's actually said he'll come back and get more into the ugly of it because that part of his talk got a little shortchanged at the end. And in January, we're scheduled to have one of the supervisors come out and talk about the current county plan to reduce homelessness by 50% in the next 5 years. So we have a variety of things. We try to avoid politics and religion. And we usually have about 15 to 20 people there on that. And then once a month, we have a luncheon at the apple farm. And that's just for fun and conversation and good food. And then about once a quarter, we'll have kind of an all-village event that's bigger. Like in the summer, we have a picnic in the park. Okay. So, what does it take to be a member of Slow Village? You have to be over 50 years old. And as I look around this room, I think everybody qualifies. You cannot be wheelchair bound if you want transportation, because our volunteers provide that transportation, and we don't want them breaking their backs and injuring themselves by transporting wheelchairs and getting them collapsed and into the car. We transport people regularly with walkers, canes, that sort of thing. We have 2 members that are legally blind that have to be led. That's okay. Now, our volunteers are background checked, so you know there's no thieves or scam artists. And if they are a volunteer driver, their DMV record is checked, and they must provide us with proof of insurance on their car and their current car registration, so that we feel totally safe. The village also carries its own insurance, so God forbid one of those volunteers did fall off the ladder, it's our insurance that would kick in and not your homeowner's insurance. So, what does it cost? To be a full member and get services in all the social events, if you're a solo person, it costs $500 a year. Now, we never turn anybody away for financial reasons. We have some generous donors that give specifically for scholarships to reduce those fees if it's necessary. If you're really well and you really are still driving and you don't need services yet, but you want to participate in the social life and kind of get your feet wet and get to know some people, for that eventuality when we'll all need those services, you can become a social member for $250 a year. As a solo, $375 as a couple. And couple means any 2 people living in the same household. So if you're into home sharing or something, you can both be the membership only covers about 30% of our operating costs, so we're very dependent on our generous donors. So how does this work? What are the nuts and bolts of the organization? When you have a request, you phone the office phone number, and you will get a person during some of the hours. You will frequently get a voicemail recorder that will instruct you. If you have a transportation request, give us the date, the time, where you're going, and any special needs of that request. If the information is not complete, the office manager will phone you back. Then she will put the request on what we call the portal on our website, which when you pick up a brochure, our website is simply slowvillage.org, and it's excellent, and will repeat everything I've just told you in case you forget any of it. And the volunteers will then go to the website. That portal is password protected, so you have to be a good volunteer to see those requests. It's not like some scam artist can go through and see your requests. And then they will say, oh, I see Alice needs a ride to the doctor next Wednesday. Well, I'm free next Wednesday morning, so I will pick up that request. And then Alice will get a phone call from the volunteer that has picked up that request and go over the details of it. The more notice you give us, the more apt we are to fill out your request. So some people, when they get their next doctor's appointment, that's a whole month ahead, they will call the office and put in that request at that time. We ask for 4 days notice for transportation. We're always looking for new members and new volunteers. When you become a member, we do what we call an intake interview, which frequently takes about an hour because people usually have lots of questions and we want to get to know you. Currently, we are backlogged. I have to train more people how to do intakes, so. I think that's about it. It is really a great organization, and I have enjoyed so much being part of it, and met so many wonderful people. And I always tell people, join sooner rather than later, like everybody around this panel has said, because if you're a couple, and this is one thing then that you can have in place and have a support system when the eventual happens and you're no longer a couple. So.
Okay, thank you, Sally. Okay, we're running a little bit over, so each of you have 1 minute to add anything that you might want to add that you wish you had said first time around. Ron? Oh, sorry.
One thing I was thinking about that I was in my notes and I skipped over it is when I was telling about the different kind of care agencies, you know, the corporate, franchise, private owners. The other option is to hire your own private caregiver outside of an agency. That's going to be less expensive. That's the big advantage, is that it's going to be more affordable. However, you're going to be responsible for things like workers' comp and checking their background, making sure that they don't have something on their record. But I did want to present that as another option that you can prepare ahead of time if you want to go that route as well.
Thank you, Ron. Just so you know, we do not recommend using someone outside of an agency for so many reasons that we could talk about privately if you like. Bonnie?
I think the only thing I would want to add is that we do take anybody over the age of 50 at the center, but we do, when we get new members, they are now part of the family at the center. And one thing, if you wanted to come by and just view the center, take a tour, whatever it may be, I would really encourage you to do that, because it's awfully, awfully good, and it does nothing but improve your, I think your attitude. I think it's just a great attitude adjustment. I think that's what you get.
Yeah.
So, thank you so much for your help, and if any of you want to volunteer at the center, I've got 3 afternoons a week right now that I'm having to fill in on the front desk, and I really don't have time to do that. So, if you would like to come just to volunteer, I'll welcome you with open arms, I promise.
Great. Doug?
I would like to add on the financial power of attorney, that when it's time to actuate it, okay, to use it, the agent has to offer this to the bank or to the brokerage firm or to the insurance company, and they have to process it and accept it. So that's a process, okay? Just because you have a document in your hand, it's not effective until it's offered and accepted. And some banks and brokerage firms have different levels, okay? They can be pretty picky about these things. So my clients express a lot of frustration to me, and I give them a lot of encouragement, okay? So that's financial. On the medical side, the healthcare agent that you name has post-death authority. So that's the person that would be in charge of the disposition of our remains, okay? So they would offer the healthcare power of attorney to the mortuary or to Neptune Society, whoever's handling our remains, okay? So it's not the will or the trust that the mortuary is gonna be asking for, it's the healthcare power of attorney, okay? I guess one quick addition to that is, if you haven't considered pre-arranging, that's something that can take a big burden off the family, and it's something you can always talk to a mortuary or Neptune about to get prices and to lock that in. Okay. So.
The only thing I forgot to tell you is we welcome people, if you want to come try a coffee hour without joining yet, you're welcome to drop by and just meet some people and see what we do at the social. There's no trying out of the services, but you can try out the social aspects.
Great. Okay, we're gonna open it up for questions. And Linda, let's start with you.
Yes, I have my children. I have my children as listed as durable power of attorney and that sort of thing, but I don't think they really understand everything, and so I'm considering maybe changing the durable power of attorney and medical and financial to someone who is outside the family. And I'm just wondering if I should keep it in the family, or can I, recommend a friend or something like that? Because my kids live out of state, and if I have like the surgery, they wouldn't be available unless it's a phone call to make a decision for me. And so I'm just wondering if I should have somebody local and somebody who's a good friend that can do this.
That's a really good point. The agent that you name, okay, whether it's financial or medical, they need to be available to you, okay, in if there is crisis. One thing my parents did with me is they brought me in to see their attorney and their financial planner, and they reviewed the and their lawyer and reviewed all their documents with me. So I call that drilling down, and I encourage parents to bring families in and to really drill down with these documents, and so the children have a better understanding of the documents, okay? So that's one option. A lot of families don't live in the same town together anymore. I mean, most don't, right? So if somebody lives 3 hours away, I don't think that alone is a reason not to have them as your healthcare agent. They can be there within a day, okay? But if somebody can't be there for a week, I've seen that happen, and that's a problem, because then the hospitals are just kind of keeping things going, and that may not be ideal.
Right, and then
Yeah.
plus the lack of interest, the responsibility.
Right.
So Linda's question, and I apologize, I should have repeated it in the beginning, I believe, is that her kids have power of attorney, but they're out of the area and aren't that easily accessible.
They don't want the responsibility.
They don't really want the responsibility, so should she, find an alternative person to give the power of attorney to?
So, family, we look to family first, okay? If that's not suitable, we can look to friends. There are also fiduciaries out there, licensed professional fiduciaries. That is a license that you can gain in California to be a professional licensed fiduciary, and then you would be appointing someone to make those healthcare decisions, okay? So I've had a hybrid situation where we had a family member and a fiduciary. So those are all things that do require a lot of thought and consideration.
Okay, Carol?
This question is for Doug, and it pertains to the medical power of attorney. There are so many hospitals in the area, and in terms of having your wishes on the record, it's been my experience, you might want to go, say, to French, but you may end up being sent to Marion instead. And I have seen cases in which that has happened. Nobody has consulted the record because they can't find it. There's a crisis situation, somebody needs to be intubated, and they want a decision now. Nobody's looking for. So in a hospital situation, is there any kind of coordination of records? They don't bother to look for it if it's.
The short answer is no, okay? Even within Dignity Health, you have different databases and they're not linked up. So, right, so that's why I stressed that the agent needs to have a digital copy.
But that
so
has to be looked up too.
Right, the agent, well, you're right, if it's a crisis situation, Carol, that person may be, a procedure may be done against their wishes, and it happens all the time.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it does happen all the time. But, so we can only do the best we can under those situations. Now, yeah, I have clients that will bring this down to their local emergency room, okay? The closest one, because they're banking on, if I'm, picked up, that's where they're gonna take me. So you can try to cover all the bases, but there always can be situations that come up where you have bad outcomes.
Okay, and the related question is about the doctors. As hospitalists, and your primary care doctor usually is not involved once you're in the hospital. Meanwhile, we have all these documents with our primary care, and he or she is not to be found, and the hospitalists. So is there any way to work around the coordination of getting these forms to people who actually are doing the care?
Well, as I said, the doctor, the physician you list on this form, Carol, that may change, okay? And so my advice is, if you have a new doctor, to make sure that you give them a copy of the document, okay? So you don't have to update your form every time you change doctors or if your doctor retires. So that's the best way to cover your bases. And I guess the other point is that the primary physician, that's not limited, that you're not limiting care, to just that doctor that's listed. It's just informational.
Okay, if you have any further questions, the panelists will be here for a little while. You can talk to them directly. I think some of the key takeaways that I got today was, while you're healthy, put a plan in place and go towards people, not away from them. Don't isolate. Make new friends. A lot of us have friends and family that are starting to pass away, and we're starting to feel lonely. So go towards people, make new friends, be intentional. I think our panelists did a good job of covering security, loneliness, socialization, finances, in-home care and senior community. We encourage you to put your care team in place now, and you can always count on us as Seacoast seniors if you run into a situation or if you forgot somebody's name or contact information, that we can put you in touch with anyone who is on our resource team, and that includes anyone sitting at the front. I put together a quick little flyer that I'm going to ask Shannon to pass out before you leave. And here you go, Shannon. And basically it is things to do that you need to do right now. Start putting your plan together. Organize your legal and your financial affairs. If you're not well, and a lot of times husbands pass away and they took care of everything for the wife, and now the wife hasn't a clue how to pay bills. I mean, I know that's, not so much these days, but for a lot of us older people, that is the situation. So have someone in mind who would pay your bills for you if you got sick. Doug talked about power of attorney, so critical. If you're feeling useless, sometimes as we get older, we start to feel like we're fading away, and we begin to feel useless and that we've lost our sense of purpose. So check out some organizations. There's organizations specifically for seniors, and so I've got the information on how to contact them here. If you need a roommate, if you're trying to make ends meet and you're determined to stay at home, I've got some information here for Home Share of San Luis Obispo. Interview an in-home care service, and Seacoast Seniors highly recommends seniors helping seniors. And do what you can to make your home safe. A lot of companies will come in and give you a free assessment, and we're happy to come over also to see what modifications you can make to your home so that you're not in harm's way. And don't rule out moving to a senior community, because senior communities aren't old folks' homes anymore. They really aren't. I mean, you can really have a good time, and it can be a great option to add some fun and excitement to your life. And last but not least, consider purchasing a medical alert system if you are alone. There's a lot of them out there, and they're not really that expensive, and they could save your life. So that's my 2 cents. Let's see. Oh, we're gonna have a raffle in a minute, drawing. And I just want to say that, as I mentioned earlier, my day job is as a realtor with Keller Williams. And so if you are considering selling your home, we would greatly appreciate it if you would consider giving us a call, okay? All right, time for the raffle. And we are raffling off a $25 gift certificate to Splash Cafe. The lucky winner is 1750821. Janice, you're on a roll, girl.
Oh, I'm so excited. Been there years.
Oh, Janice, you're gonna have to bring a raffle
Well, I'll
gift
text you.
next time. Okay. And then we have one other raffle gift today, and that is our book, Downsizing Made Easy, which we usually only give to our clients once we have, if we have a consultation with them, a private consultation. But today we're going to raffle it off. It's a great book to get your affairs in order. And so here we go. That lucky winner is 1750822. Oh my goodness. Okay. All right.
five.
I missed the first one.
There you go.
I want to thank all of you for coming today. Have I forgotten anything?
question right here.
Oh, we have a question,
This is
sorry.
actually my reason for being here.
Oh, okay.
Do you have any vetted fiduciaries?
Yes, and I'm glad that you brought that up. I do have fiduciaries on my resource team, and they are excellent. My husband and I personally appointed a fiduciary in our trust in case we were ever on life support and someone had to decide who to pull the plug. I decided not to put that burden on my children. And so I appointed my fiduciary for that. A fiduciary is licensed. There's only like 900 of them in all of California. And they will, on an hourly basis, come in and pay your bills for you. And there's all kinds of benefits to employing a fiduciary. So yes, I will get that information to you after the seminar. Anything else, everybody? Okay, well, we are taking a break in December. I want to wish all of you a wonderful holiday season. We'll be back in January, and the seminar in January is about downsizing with dementia, the timing and the transition of it all. And I hope to see you all after the first of the year or even before. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Oh, and thanks again to our panelists.